Hi Class 3, hope you're all okay. Now the story I've decided to read for us today is The Witch's Vacuum Cleaner, which is written by Terry Pratchett. Now I know you might recognise this author's name, and that is because we have already read one of his stories in class. We read The Fire Opal, and because we enjoyed it, I thought I'd read another story written by him too. Now I'm going to read half of it today, and I'm going to save half of it for next week as well. So make yourself cosy and let's begin. The Witch's Vacuum Cleaner. Mr. Ronald, Uncle Ron Swinburne, liked birthdays because they meant parties, and since he was a part-time conjurer, that meant engagements. He could make eggs appear out of nowhere, pull flags of all nations out of people's ears, do 50 different card tricks, and was generally very good at the sort of magic that's learned by hard practice in front of a mirror. He was president of the Blackberry Magic Rectangle too. Uncle Ron had a parrot called Mims who could pick cards out of a hat and liked to shout, and a daughter called Lucy who generally stood on the stage saying very little, but who took his cloak and handed him Mims in a cage, and so on. All three were very happy until the night of Jimmy Waddle's 10th birthday party at the town hall. Uncle Ron walked onto the stage and the children bellowed, "Hello, Uncle Ron!" And then his hat fell off and 3 rabbits tumbled out. He bent down to pick them up and a flock of pigeons burst out of his jacket, and a daffodil shot out of his ear, and his bow tie began to revolve at high speed. It was all very entertaining, and young Jimmy Waddle was wide-eyed with amazement. But the most surprised person in the hall was Uncle Ron. They weren't his tricks, and anyway, he was allergic to rabbits. He just tried to carry on, but his act went to pot. He did plenty of tricks, turning a top hat into a vase of flowers and making a table disappear. But he didn't mean to. Every time he moved his hand, something appeared or vanished. He was almost in tears by the time he'd reached for his pack of cards, and that turned into a glass of wine. So he just ran off the stage. "That's a new lot," began Lucy. "They're not mine. I don't know what's happened. I haven't even got any pigeons." "Cake!" screamed Mimes. The audience was clapping, and Ronald had to go and take 2 bows before he could say any more. Everybody was shaking his hands and asking how he did it. Finally, he reached for his dressing room and he locked the door. "I don't know how it happened, but it was as if all I had to do was point my finger at something like that cupboard over there and say, 'Turn it into a hat stand,' and it turned into a hat stand." "Jam!" screamed Mimes. Ronald pointed his finger at his hat. "Vanish," he said hoarsely, and his hat did vanish. Or how do you think Uncle Ron's feeling right now, Class 3? Do you think he's glad to have all these new magical powers, or do you think he's feeling quite sad? I personally think he's feeling quite sad as well, especially how he locked the door and he didn't really want to have his magic hat anymore. Let's see what happens next. They went home by taxi. Every now and again, Ron pointed out of the window to things on the pavement just to see if the magic was still there, and 3 lampposts were turned into a stork, a small yellow elephant on wheels, and a baby's buggy. The trouble came when he paid the taxi driver, because although Uncle Ron could turn things into other things, he didn't have much control over what might change, or what something would turn into. So when he took his wallet out of his pocket, it suddenly became a cheese sandwich. Lucy had to pay the fare out of her lunch money, and the taxi driver drove off hurriedly. "The front door key's in my waistcoat pocket," said Ron through clenched teeth. "I don't think I can touch things anymore. You'd better unlock the door in case I turn it into something unmentionable." "Gloves," said Lucy. "That's it. Put a pair of gloves on, and then you'll be able to touch anything." "I haven't got any," Ron said miserably, "and even if I did, they'd just turn into something else as soon as I touched them." Lucy fetched a pair of her red woolly ones with daft rabbits embroidered in odd colours on the back. Sure enough, as soon as Ron touched them, they changed. into socks. That gave Lucy an idea. She went and got a pair of her father's socks, and sure enough again, these changed into red woolly gloves as soon as he put them on his hands. Ron slumped down onto a chair and he picked up his phone. He asked some of his fellow conjurers from the Black Magic Rectangle to come round at once, and soon the little house was filled with people. "Watch this," Ron told them, taking his glove off and pointing at a little potted cactus. It turned into a bowl of marbles. Everyone gasped satisfactorily, except for one woman, who had just looked out of the window and seen a small wheeled elephant trundling by, towing a stalk on a baby's buggy. I wonder if I look out if I'd see that now. I'd rather not. "It's not trickery," said Ron. "It's the real thing. It's proper magic. Marmalade," Mime screeched. "There's no such thing," scoffed a Mirage, who did card tricks. "It's an illusion," added Presto Changio, who sawed his assistant in half twice nightly. "Sandwich," screamed Mimes, rapping his beak against his cage. Ronald turned the table into a lawnmower. "What can I do?" he asked. "I could make my fortune, I suppose, but I don't want to have to wear gloves all the time, and anyway, I might turn something good into something dreadful." "Could it have been anything what you've eaten? Did anything unusual happen today?" asked Presto. Let's see now. No, not much. The only thing unusual that I can remember is knocking over an old lady's vacuum cleaner when I went into work this morning. It was in the car park. No idea why. She went on something dreadful about it, but she had lent it against my car. Was it a small lady with a brown coat and a sort of flower pot hat full of hat pins? Asked Lucy, who had been listening to all of this. It was. Oh dear, I never thought of that. That's Mrs. Riley, and she's a witch. Biscuits, crisp, ice cream came from Mimes. You mean she's put a spell on me? Said Ron, ignoring his parrot. That's ridiculous. Magic does not exist, began Presto Changio, and stopped when Ron turned a pencil into a small banana. I think that's just proved otherwise, said Ron, picking up a banana and absent-mindedly peeling it. The question is, what can we do about it? Go around and plead with her, said Presto, practically. So Uncle Ron and the other Blackberry conjurers set out for Mrs. Riley's house, which was number 3, Dahlia Crescent, and it didn't look much as though it belonged to a witch. There was lots of pretty flowers in the front garden, for instance. Lucy rang the bell twice, and Presto hammered on the door. They peered through the windows, but couldn't see very much, as she seemed to have a small forest of plants on the sill inside. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now, class 3. I hope you enjoyed our first part of the Witch's Vacuum Cleaner. Have a little think between now and next week to think, what do you think will happen in the story next? So don't forget, Uncle Ron has got all these magical powers, which he just needs to point his finger towards, and it'll change into something. Do you think that will still continue? Okay, so keep safe, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!